Hi everyone, welcome to Rachael's webinar. Today I want to thank Rachael for volunteering to do the webinar for November. Today Rachael will be presenting on strategic partnerships and the relationship between the public and the private sector. We have sort of changed the format of the way the webinars are going to be conducted from now on. We will not be doing live sessions. The main reason being that every time we do it, there's always some issues with internet or some kind of issue, and we do not want to waste your time. So what we're going to do is we're going to do recorded videos, and you are more than welcome to share all your questions directly to the fellow, and they will make sure that they address them. So this is going to be the first month that we're going to conduct the webinars in this new format, and I hope that, and I would love to receive your feedback regarding it, and if you think that there are other ways that we should be able to do it, I am very open to your suggestions. So without wasting any further time, I want Rachael to introduce and talk about a little bit about herself and the work that she's been doing, and before she officially kicks off the presentation.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. So my name is Rachael Kentenyingi. I am in class 24. I work with global communities in the Strategic Partnerships Department. The reason I'm doing this webinar is because strategic partnerships is something that I've been learning as part of my fellowship, and I hope that you learn with me. So thank you for having me, and thank you, Sarah, for this introduction.
Of course. Yeah. So without wasting any further time, I'll share your presentation, and we can start off with that then.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. So welcome. Like I said, I'm working with global communities in the Strategic Partnerships Department. So Global Communities is an international NGO that's development work in Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East, and Latin America. Like many nonprofits, Global Communities is looking to diversify funding, especially with the current administration and fears of budget cuts. So they're looking to work more with the private sector, and that is part of what I've been learning. I'll just tell you that strategic partnerships is really, really wide. There's so much to learn, and I'm still learning myself. So what I'm sharing right now is just the basics. And if you're interested in learning more, I am a member of INGO Partnership Working Group. It is hosted by Humantum, formerly inside NGO. So I have resources that I can share with you. So reach out to me if you want to know more about that. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. Sarah, how do I move this? Okay, thank you.
Take it down with the mouse.
All right, so why partnerships? And there is a reason as to why I am leading with why, because it's very important that you stick to your why. First of all, nonprofits are no longer asking whether or not they should partner. Most of them know that really we need to partner with companies. Companies invest a lot of money in the communities where they work, in their corporate social responsibility spaces, but then they're looking to do just more than handing over a check and taking pictures and getting media coverage. They want to co-create, they want to be more involved in providing solutions that change the way development is done. So yes, a lot of companies agree that NGOs have helped them to improve the way they work with the communities. And then also many millennials will want to maybe buy from a company that is socially responsible. They want to work for a company that is socially responsible. So it's no longer about why companies and nonprofits should partner. It's now more about how are they going to work together. And then, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals are calling for more strategic partnerships between the public sector, the private sector, and civil society as equal stakeholders in this partnership. So, yeah, strategic partnership is here to stay, and it's important for people working in business development to know how to go about it. Okay, so like I said, partnership is important, and non-profits and companies will all benefit from this partnership. But we need to remember that at the heart of the partnership is the community. So the communities need to benefit, the companies need to benefit, and the people and the non-profits need to benefit. So companies have access to funds, they have access to contacts, they have access to expertise that non-profits can leverage from. For instance, if you see a company like Coca-Cola, they will reach the last mile. You go to visit somebody deep in the village, the poorest of the poor, they'll serve you with a soda. And yet non-profits really struggle so much to reach that last mile person with a service. So leveraging that kind of innovation, that connection is very important for non-profits. And then of course, for companies, it helps to enhance their reputation. Most companies will want to be socially responsible. It helps them to access new markets and then also to increase social impact. And then of course, there's shared value. So both the company and the non-profits benefit in that sense. And then of course, there's a whole motivating factor for employees. Employees of companies would love to be involved in volunteering efforts. So when they get to work with a company that has a whole volunteering component to it, they become more motivated to do that. So yes, it's no longer about why, I mean, or if partners, if non-profits and companies should partner, it's more about how they're going to work together. So I need to define partnerships, but then I'll tell you that partnership is defined differently by many non-profits. I mean, for some people, like handing over a check or receiving a check is a partnership. To some people, maybe if a company volunteers with, if employees of a company volunteer with an NGO, that's partnership. But if you're working in the partnership space, it's important to define partnership in your own context. Agree with your team what partnership looks like, how everybody benefits from the partnership, and then decide how you want to go about it. So there's no clear final definition of partnership that I'll give you, but I hope that by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to define partnership in your context, in your organization. Okay. So the way non-profits and companies partner has evolved over the years. For instance, I worked in the Corporate Social Responsibility Office for Barclays Bank. At the time, we used to call it Corporate Social Responsibility. It moved to citizenship and then sustainability. I think now it's community investment. So it has evolved. The way companies work together with non-profits keeps changing. If you're working in the partnership space, you need to be on top of your game, understand how it's changing, see how people are working. But then over and above the definitions of what's partnership and what people are doing together, it's important to also know how you want to work with these companies. So some companies give grants, they give product donations, their employees give volunteer time. That's very important. But then over and above the grants, it's important to know what cause that you're looking to support. If the grant doesn't fall within the cause that you want to do, then maybe that's not something that you want to go after. But then, like I said, it is really how you as an organization or a nonprofit defines partnership. And then some companies have gone ahead to do cause-related marketing. I think the first definition of cause-related marketing came through the partnership with American Express in raising money for renovating the Statue of Liberty. So for everybody that used the American Express card, a small amount of money, I think it was like 1 cent, went towards that cause. And so by doing that, they raised about $1.7 million and then increased their card usage by, I think, 20% or 25%. So at the end of the day, cause-related marketing has evolved. People use this kind of thing to increase their market, but then also contribute to a cause. And then there's shared value. Shared value is a little newer than this whole thing. So corporate companies are looking to be more involved, like I said, in co-creating, in building partnerships, in making lasting solutions that impact social change. For instance, they want to get involved in innovation. They want to do things that can benefit the last person, but then also create market for their product. So at the end of the day, everybody wins. So for the companies that are, for the non-profits that are able to design concepts that create shared value for the organization and for the non-profit, and then also for the communities, these are the companies that are really getting the value from this partnership space. So I'll give you some examples of how NGOs and companies have partnered so that you sort of understand how you can do it in your own organization or in your own context. I know that some of you will have more examples from your own experiences, so I picked out a few that we can relate with. For instance, Starbucks has been supporting the RED campaign, the HIV/AIDS campaign. So for every amount of coffee for a particular period that somebody buys goes towards a global fund in the fight against AIDS. So far, they've raised about $12 million, which is a lot of money. And at the end of the day, it also promotes market for Starbucks. Then, like I said, this is not very, like, you will not see adverts for companies advertising grants. A lot of them will not advertise, but it's important if you're doing partnerships to stay on top of your game. I think that a good place to start is their sustainability reports or their sustainability websites. So find out what companies are doing, what money they're giving, what causes they're supporting. I'll give an example of Cisco. Cisco has cash grants. It has innovation grants. Nestle is also creating shared value. IBM, many of them are doing, like, giving cash donations to nonprofits to address social issues. So, like I said, it's important to know where to find them, what they're doing, and how you can come in. Then advocacy. So nonprofits are working together with companies to advocate for policies that are favorable. For instance, in the past, nonprofits would kind of come against companies for maybe doing irresponsible businesses. And then what they're trying to do right now is to make it, like, to work together, because at the end of the day, the community needs to benefit. Companies create jobs, much as their operations might have impact to negative impacts to the environment, for instance. There's also the positive impact. So how can the two of them work together to create value for communities where they work? And then also some companies have a bit of employee engagement grants. For instance, for Microsoft, for these employees that get involved in fundraising, every amount of money that an employee raises is matched shilling for shilling. So if you're doing partnerships, again, it's important to understand how these organizations are working so that you can tap into these resources. And then some nonprofits are helping to improve practices of companies, especially the companies that are involved in supply chain. You'll find that they will have a lot of issues within their supply chain. I think the easiest example is for the clothes that we wear. You cannot tell where the cotton that made the cloth that you're wearing, it's difficult to tell how it was sourced. Was there child labor involved? Was there slave labor or illegal labor involved? So a lot of these companies have issues. Even the well-intentioned companies, the ones that really want to do responsible business, will have issues in their supply chain. So NGOs come in to help these companies improve their practices. As NGOs, it's important to remember that we are not supposed to be used to cover up these issues. We are not to cover up the negative image of companies, but to work together to improve the well-being of communities. So if you go in knowing that you're addressing a responsible sourcing issue, address that and not cover up the image for the company. And then, of course, there are in-kind donations. People give computers. The media usually gives a lot of free media space, which is a big contribution when you put it into monetary terms. So it's very important to see how you can partner and how that fits into what you're trying to do. Okay, there's some examples that are a little bit more strategic, and this is where the companies come in to provide services, to provide funding for services that they know will benefit their overall mission. For instance, Coca-Cola is big on water projects, bringing access to water and sanitation. You remember that water is a raw material for the beverage industry. So when they bring access to water in the communities where they work, they also have access to a good raw material for their resources. So again, everybody wins. Walmart is partnering with Feed the Future and different NGOs to empower farmers to be able to produce better quality goods. Remember, these farmers are also working with they're also supplying to Walmart, and then people want to buy from companies that are sourcing from, that are doing fair trade, that are supporting the communities. So Walmart gains, the farmer gains, and the non-profit also gains because it achieves its mission. The one that I'm close to is the Banking on Change project. The reason I'm close to it is because it happened at the time that I was working with Rachaels Bank and we were involved so much in this project. So what we did together with Care and Plan was to bring access to financial services to people that were not banked. They had no access to banks. They were banking in a small box that had 3 locks. Through using technology, Barclays gave them free banking services where they could still use the 3 pins to sort of keep their village savings group concept, but this time it was digitized. This was a benefit to the community because previously they had no access to banks. They could now access a bank, they could access loans, but then it was also a benefit to Barclays because then they got customers, and these are people who save their money for a year and share it out at the end of the year. So these are savings that you're sure you're going to keep for the whole year. So at the end of the day, everybody wins. So the reason I'm giving these examples is for us to think wide and far about how innovative we can get about these strategic partnerships. It's about how innovative you'll be, because the private sector needs to make the money. That's their core business, and then also they want to create impact. Yeah. Okay, like I said, partnership is really, really big. I cannot cover it all, but then I'll have a little bit of the partnership development. You already know what partnership is. You want to do it. How do you go about it? I'll say again, lead with your why. Again, at the heart of the partnership is the communities. Look for companies that align with your cause, especially those that share the same values and the mission. Find the companies that get you, and trust me, they're there. So, and then define success. What does success look like for you? And for companies and non-profits, success is totally different. Non-profits will have a whole different way of defining success. Companies are more interested in numbers. What impact are you making? What is the return on investment? So you need to understand how success looks like before you even get into this partnership. And do your research. This one is very, very important. Companies will have causes they support. It's important that if you're going to approach a company, you know what they're working on and what they support. Some will accurately say that we don't support this cause. So it's embarrassing, for instance, as a development professional to go to a non-profit that doesn't do anything to do with education and ask them to fund that kind of concept. So it's important to do your research, know what companies are supporting the industry, their competitors, their consumers, so to be able to understand how to work with them. And then it's important to do your due diligence. This has been a challenge for most of the non-profits. Not all money is good money. Because a company is offering money does not mean that you have to take it. Define your deal breaker from the word go. Know that I'm not going to take this money because it's not aligned to my cause. At Global Communities, for instance, we do not take money that is related to tobacco and arms dealing, and that is clear. So if you know that something is against the cause that you're supporting, then do not take that money. But define it, know what it looks like from the word go. And then have internal processes, know who is going to approve what within your organization. How do you start the partnerships? How do you do the meetings? Have a way of coordination because, for instance, if it's like a big company, you can find maybe two different people are talking to the same company. There's no coordination, and that causes a lot of confusion. Build relationships. Do not underestimate small beginnings. Just like any relationship, you start with dating. If a company wants to partner with you in a small way, but then you see that there's a future to where you're going, please build that relationship. It's very important. Yeah, and then be persistent but not annoying. I mean, some people will tell you, oh, we're not doing something this year, come to us next year. It's important to keep that persistence going and keep knocking, and they'll open at some point. Okay, I think I had another slide. Yeah, so finding your way in. You already know how you want to do this. You have your concept. You want to get into a partnership. You want to work with an organization. How do you get in? Contacts within your organization are a good place to start. Leverage the contacts that your senior management has, especially the board members and the senior management. They have contacts within these organizations. It's much easier to get into a company when you know somebody than just sending an email, for instance. Conferences are also very good, but you need to be strategic about the conferences that you go to because there's so many of them and they're very expensive. So if, for instance, you're looking to partner with a company that has a conference where the corporate social responsibility person is speaking, that is something that you would love to go for. So be strategic about the conferences that you go to and then follow through. When you make those contacts, follow through. Thought leadership is another very important one. So become an expert in your field. If your cause is water, become an expert in water so that if somebody is thinking about bringing access to clean water, they'll think about you. One way people are doing thought leadership these days is being on panels, writing blogs, and sharing knowledge, because hoarding knowledge is not very helpful. And then also you need to be targeted on the way that you communicate. Avoid cold calls or cold outreach like a plague, because if you just call somebody, you don't have a plan of how you're going to reach them. You're just not being strategic about your communication. It doesn't help the companies. And then also non-profits have a lot of jargon in their way. In the way that we write, we have a lot of acronyms. Those don't work for companies. Give them communication that they relate to. Their sustainability reports are a good place to kind of check the language that they use. Pitch meetings are important. A pitch deck is very important, but over and above having a colorful deck, it's about having the knowledge that the companies need. So if you're meeting and presenting to a company, show them the numbers, show them the impact, show them the return on investment. They appreciate that. And then, of course, we need to measure success, learn, evaluate, review. There's no final way of doing things. Things change. So if at any one point something has changed or something did not work for you, please review it and do something that works for you. Okay. Yeah, that's it about partnerships. I'll just wrap it up by summarizing some of the points that you need to note. Again, successful partnership depends on shared goals. Find companies that get you. Find companies that share your goal. Corporates can help NGOs to scale faster as much as NGOs can help businesses to understand their social impact. Communication is key. Do not forget your senior leadership. Consider the pitfalls before the launch. And then you cannot tell the company's values from its website alone. So do research as much as you can. Yeah, and so if you want to learn more about partnerships, please reach out to me. I've shared some resources on that presentation that you can also refer to. There's so much that is being said, but then, yeah, you can learn more about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It was such a pleasure hearing about strategic partnerships from you. I loved the way you use a lot of real world examples to explain the concepts. I think that's always a great way of getting to know more about and learning more about the concept. So thank you for doing that. And for all of those who have questions, you know that you can reach out to Rachel and connect with her and ask as many questions as you want, because she's going to be right there responding them to you. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Bye.